Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Eddie Jennings from EJSLLC.com. This video and the ones I'm going to make like it are a bit different than a lot of the stuff that I normally do. I figure since I'm working toward my RHCSA certification, this will be a chance for me to practice whatever concept is that I'm working on, kind of in the pressure of a live situation where, hey, I'm on the exam, I have to install, configure whatever, I have to make it work. I'm not going to allow myself any documentation outside of what I have with like man pages and user share doc and such. I don't intend for these to necessarily be instructive because I myself am learning about these concepts, but I figure doing this and showing some of my own troubleshooting methods for trying to make them work might be useful to someone if they're doing their own study, or if you're not studying and you're in a production environment, you're having to deal with whatever concept it is, and you're not quite sure um, how to troubleshoot it. If something goes wrong, then this might be useful for you. Like any video, if you enjoyed the content, or at least found this mildly entertaining, feel free to click like on the video, and as always, subscribe to the channel and ring the bell when you do, so you can be aware of new concept, or not new concepts, new content as it comes available. So I have a couple of tabs open here in Bash. I'm running Fedora 31 on KDE, so I have my console. I have one VM, that's my Rel Practice 8 number 1, Rel Practice 8 number 2, and then this is my actual just laptop itself. So what I'm going to be trying to do is do a basic NFS configuration. So network file system, doing the a basic file share. So what I know to do for that, I'm going to have to install some packages, and both of these VMs are basically fresh installed patches of CentOS 8. I did the minimum install. I did choose the guest add-ons during the installer, but other than that, and other than just running yum update-y and then getting them patched up, these are fresh systems. So I'm going to make sure that I'm on the practice one, because I'm going to treat that as my server in this scenario. I'm going to install NFS utils, which is the package that you're going to need to have NFS running both for client and server. So I'll do sudo, if I can spell sudo right, yum install NFS utils. Password in there. Let's see if I can not, oh wait, set a different password for these little test servers. Oh, come on. Maybe third time's a charm. Yep, there it is. Okay. So I did a little bit of reading on NFS just to try to know a little bit more about it, other than just, hey, follow these steps to make it work. And this RPC bind is still used, and from what I gather, one of the big changes from NFS 3 to NFS 4 is how remote procedure calls are used and such. But I know in my Linux Academy training I did, they had me install the RPC bind, but I just noticed that that's coming in as a dependency for NFS utils, so we don't have to know to specify that. So I'll go ahead and install that there. And on the second system, I'll do the same. NFS utils, I'll go ahead and pass -y just to where we don't have to confirm the install. Losing the password game right now. There we go. All right, so that is installed. Let me clear my screen. And next thing that I want to do is start the service for NFS. So it should just be systemctl. Actually, we can check the status. It should show it down, and it'll give us an idea if the name that I think the service is going to be right. So systemctl status, NFS. NFS service can't be found. Okay, so what I can do for this, if I'm not sure of the actual, which I'll bet NFS-server is it. Let's see if that's right. Yeah, it is NFS server and services. I think what I could do otherwise, if I could not think of the name of the service, I could probably do systemctl. I think it is list unit files type service. I'll pipe that to less. Yeah, that should give us everything that's a service. And I guess if I were doing this on the exam, I would look for something that seems like would make sense. And here we have NFS server dash service. So what I want to do is both enable this and turn it on at the same time. You could do systemctl start NFS server, then systemctl enable, but I've learned that you can do this little trick. Systemctl enable NFS server dash dash now, and that'll both enable it and start it. I'll have to authenticate, so I'm not running as root. There we go. And so I'm trying to type my password too fast. So system status NFS server. All right, so that service is up and going. One of the reasons why I'm enabling this service is because everything I've read on the exam, pretty much anything you do needs to be able to survive a reboot. And obviously, if you just start the service, that's great, but unless that service is enabled, then when I reboot, things aren't going to work. So next thing we need to do, I'm going to make a directory that I'm going to be using as my export, and that will be the thing that I am sharing out via NFS. So for this, I'm actually going to use sudo because I'm going to do this at the root. So I'm going to make a directory. We're going to call this NFS share. Do underscore NFS share. All right, and that directory is there. And let us, I'll just make a little text file. VI, we'll do NFS share test file. Maybe someone can read this. Now, one of the old jokes about VI is that it takes longer to exit VI than it does to actually do your work. The method I like using is the lowercase x. That is exit the program and write at the same time. Some people do QW, but X was the first thing I learned, and that has just stuck with me. So should be able to read this. Yep, other has read privileges, so just make sure there is text there. One thing I think I'll be doing on the exam a good bit is anytime I'm like making a configuration file and such, I'll probably try to cat and grep and such just to make 100% sure that that the file is actually made. All right, so at this point I have what I want to use for my file share. I have my test file. Next thing that we need to do is alter the etc exports file. And if I were to go into etc ls export, let's just do ls grep exports plural. All right, so if I were to, and I'm pretty sure that, yeah, I have to be root to be able to edit that, which makes sense. So sudo vi etc exports. All right, so there's nothing in here. Now, I know a couple of things that I need to do to be able to make this work. So we're going to go ahead and put NFS share. That is what we're going to export. And we need, by default, it exports stuff as read only. But what I want to do, my particular server that I want to be able to have access to this is going to be my rel 8 practice2.ejslab.com, and I want to give that read write privileges with this. And there are some other options that you can specify, like no root squash and such. I'm going to try this without using no root squash, because from what I've gathered, that's generally a bad idea to do no root squash, because the whole idea is if you connect to this as root, everything is done as the nobody user, so that way you're not gallivanting on the other system that you're connecting to as root. So we'll just try what we have here and see if that's going to work for us. So :X. Now, I am fairly sure if we were to do man 8, let's do man NFS. Well, I'm wanting to look up here all the way to the end. Let's see, exports 5. This should show us what I want. So if we're to do man 5 exports, yeah. So the reason why I was looking for that is I couldn't remember if the man page was just going to be exports, but this exports 5 should give us an idea of what some of the options are, and may give us an idea of the syntax. So if I happen to be on the exam and just draw a complete total blank and can't remember how to do anything, then this should give us an idea of what to do as far as options that we want to use. Now, next thing I need to do is actually export the share. So I'm going to, and the command for that is export FS. We can take a look at that real quick. And what I was going to do is just export FSA. That should show us everything that we need for that. So export fs-a. Export. Probably need to do this as root anyway. Export fs-a. Failed to resolve. I know why, because I misspelled my my server name. So let me go back. Should be rel 8. Need to do that as sudo. I'm losing all over the place, but I guess this is kind of good. And what it shows you for your exam is you need to have your attention to detail going on. What did I call it? Oh, I did underscore. Yep. All right, third time's a charm, right? Or is this the fourth time? Export fs-a. There we go. No errors. Life looks like it's good here. Now, I have a feeling the firewall is going to be an issue for this, so I want to go ahead and do. Well, we'll test and make sure. So, got our XE export. Life should be good. Now let's go over to our other system. That's where I had patched it up there, so that's all nice and patched. And let's make us a file and mount. So All right, so we have NFS test in the mount directory. Okay, sudo make dir NFS test. There's NFS test. And root. All right, so what we want to do is mount our NFS, and let's see. There was a command that you could do to see what's being exported. I can't remember what that is off the top of my head. So one thing I could do for that, man-k NFS, and maybe that will jog my memory. So exports, let's look at that, man exports. Thought it had like a -e. That might not be what I'm thinking of. It's not export FS. At least I don't think it would be. Oh well, I'll have to look that up. Anyway, so sudo mount type NFS, and this is going to be coming from rel 8-practice1.ejslab.com, and the name of the share is NFS share, and we're going to mount that to NFS test. Let's see if that works. I have a feeling that it is not because of the firewall. Yep, that should have happened pretty much immediately. So let us go back to here and firewall command list services or service. Okay, so what I want to do, we're just adding this to the default profile. Service equals NFS. Often what I would do is sudo -i to just be as root. But it should now list that service. Yep. Let's try this again. Okay, that worked immediately. df-h. Yep, there, and df just to show the file systems. All right, so let's go into NFS test. We should be able to do that. We see the test file and cat test file. There's our thing. Now I'm just curious, ls-l shows it as root. And in theory, we should be able to read write. And this is where my understanding of NFS gets pretty weak as far as how that permission works. I'm fairly certain if I were to try to touch file 1, this will not work, but I might be wrong. So let's try. Yeah, that wouldn't work. So let me try sudo. So I'm doing this as root touch file1.txt. And that is also, that's odd. So let me go up and look at the permissions here. Root has read write, but it does not have. So why this would be, I'm not 100% sure. And that, let me think, what would be causing that permission issue? I'm not 100% sure what that, because the permissions on the folder are read write for root. Just as a test, let's try this. I shall do this as the root user. All right, and let's try to touch file1.txt. Permission denied. I'm not quite sure why that is, because I would be doing this as root unless it's trying that as, since I have root squash, perhaps the nobody user, or NFS nobody, whatever it does not have the rights to do that. Not 100% sure on that. So just as an experiment, let's do this. We're going to Unmount NFS. I need to get out of that before I can Unmount it. So Unmount MNT NFS test. All right. And what we're going to do here, so I'm back on the practice one. I don't think no root squash is going to have an effect, but just for giggles, let's try and see what happens. I cannot type. Sudo vi etc exports. We're going to add no root squash. So read write no root squash. Right, and we'll do export fs-a again. Now let's go back to here. We're going to mount NFS. And that was rel8-practice1.ejslab.com NFS share this test. Okay. So we should have our test file, and we do. Now let's see if we can touch a file. Perhaps that was the deal. Though I wasn't expecting the no root squash to prevent that, so that'll be something for me to research, and I will probably do a follow-up video with what I'm able to find. So the objective that I was trying to do was simply to mount a file system that is shared by NFS, and that particular objective I was able to do. Looks like the one gotcha that had to occur was the configuring of the firewall to be able to have that. So again, everything needs to survive a reboot. So let me do one more command here. I'm basically going to do the same thing, but I'm going to choose permanent. And we're going to reload firewall. And let's go back to our system here. We'll unmount our NFS and try to, oh, there's one thing that I forgot to do as far as being persistent with the change. I need to update FS tab. So since I'm already as root here, we can do etc FS tab and let us add an entry here. So we're going to do the host name, so that'll be rel8practice2.ejslab.com NFS share. We are mounting to MNT NF. I'm going to save this anyway. NFS test. And the file system is going to be NFS. And we're just going to use defaults, which I wonder. I'll bet that's what the deal was. Yep, I'll bet that's exactly what it is. And we're not going to do any type of consistency check with this. So first of all, let's see if this will mount. So one way you can test if something's persistent without actually having to take the time to reboot is we can Unmount what we need, and then Mount-A will do everything that's in the FS tab. I must have a mistake with my, let's see, rel8-practice 2.lab.com. Oh, that looks right. So here's a way I can check myself. I'm actually copying this from my my console session. I'm not sure if I would have this on the exam, but let's start a new line. Yep, that's at MNT. And the file system is NFS, defaults 0, 0. So yeah, what I had before was right for our syntax. So let's troubleshoot what it could be. All right, so firewall should not be an issue. See if we can manually mount it. All right, so that worked like immediately. So let's go back to see tab. This looks right. So let's Unmount. Maybe there's a verbose. I think there is, but yep, there is. There's a verbose. So mount AV. I must have just had some type of typo, which I don't recall seeing it. Perhaps if you saw it in the comments, feel free to mention that. So we are going to df-h. Yep, it's there. There's our original test file. Excellent. So now that I know that mount is working, and I'm just curious, touch file 2. Yep, I can do that. So the idea that I had, so I was thinking of the no root squash and what I might have been missing. So I was thinking, hey, that's probably not it. Man, it just escaped me what else could have been causing the problem. So the no root squash part, turn that on. This Fixed it. I'm kicking myself because I should have tried that one thing right when I had thought of whatever it was. So what would be causing root to not be able to write, but now that I did, read write. Now I remember. Okay, so my theory is that the issue is I needed to mount my NFS share specifically with read write on my side. So let's put this to the test. Forgive that pause there. I had to think a bit about what was going on. So let me go back. So I'm back on practice one. So VI etc exports. So we're going to get rid of no root squash. Oh yeah, I didn't start that as sudo. I know there's a single key command for deleting a word, but it escapes me at the moment. All right. So we will sudo export fs-a. Okay, so now this is my theory. So what I want to do is umount that. We're going to remount it. All right, so we're going to do the same thing that we did before, just to confirm that we still cannot write to it. Now on the exam, hopefully I would not have to do nearly this much troubleshooting. If the objective is make sure you can write a file, then that's why we're doing the practice here to see if what I would need to do for that. So let's mount SA right NFS test touch file 3. Permission denied. Okay, that's what I expect to see. So we'll umount. No. I see what I need to do. All right, so there we go. Now we're going to mount this again. -t NFS -option read write. And now I do that in parentheses. I don't think so. Let's double check. Sometimes you will see an example. Nope. All right, so mount HTNFS O read write, and we're going to want to type the Linux Academy name of my little practice servers there. So this will be rel8-practice1 ejs.com NFS share NFS test. Okay, so now nope. So my theory was wrong. I was thinking that I needed to do read write for my mount options to be able to make that work. So again, the original objective of being able to mount an NFS share worked because I did mount it. Reading works because I was able to read our file. Writing did not, so I'll have to do a little bit of research on how to extend this basic configuration to be able to allow writing but not turn on no root squash. So I'll take the time to research that. Probably will make another video with my findings. Hopefully this was useful to you if you're doing your own study for RHCSA and would like to kind of see how one person tries to handle this and tries to troubleshoot it. If you did enjoy it, make sure you click like on the video. Also, as always, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell when you do, so you can so you can be notified when new content comes available. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you the next time.